Do not repot bonsai in summer. That's what they say. But is that always true? A disclaimer. The work done in this video does not represent bonsai standards and is not recommended for the novice. In this video I'm going to repot 2 olive trees. I've got this olive tree. This has been growing in this pot for about 3 years now. And when I say growing, actually I mean this year it has not been growing. I think the lack of repotting might be the reason why I'm not getting any growth. I see that the pot stays wet for a very long time, so I think there's a drainage issue. Maybe the bottom of the pot is completely full of roots. This is the other one, and I am going to go give it another pot. I've selected this horrible blue pot for it. I hope it is the right size. It's a little bit deeper. It drains well. I know this because I've used it in the past. This small olive was imported from Spain 3 years ago. In the first year it grew well, but the years after it hasn't been growing all that much. I've noticed that the pot stays very wet for a very long time. So already in early spring I've put the tree a bit on a slant to make sure that the soil stays drier. As a result, you can see here this is nice and dry, but here the algae are forming and drainage is not all that good. When I looked at the bottom of the pot, it looked like it was a little bit concave. Water probably isn't draining properly from the drainage holes, and then water accumulates in the rim of the pot. Maybe that is what is causing the problem. Let's get in it. Let's see how this works. As always, preparation is everything. So in my pot I already have mesh installed, wire, chopsticks, wood hook, old pair of scissors, a very old knife that I use to cut off slices of the root ball, and some tools to work on the wires in the pot. And with that it is all set. We can get started. After clipping the wire, it's key to get the tree out of the pot. You can tell there's hardly any roots here. Very wet. This is very strange. If you look at the root ball, you see that most of the roots are actually dead. So the root ball is very wet. There is some happy, healthy growing root tips, but not many. Most of the roots are dead or dying. Look at that. Seems to be a lot of mud in there. Don't know why. The good sign is that there's young tips everywhere. That means that the roots are now actively growing, which also means that if I plant it up now, it should root into the pot quite quickly. Now normally I would not wash out the root ball, but in this case, because I have problems with the root ball, and there was so much mud in there and I don't know what was causing the problems, I decided to wash it out. This tree has very few side roots. There's quite a few here on this side. There's a few here, but this side is all dead. There's nothing alive here anymore. For now it is not important what the front is going to be. It's just a matter of getting it into a pot as stable as possible. The aim is to have the tree immobile in the pot, even without substrate. So this is already too much movement. Where's this little rock that is now going to sit as a little wedge in the back. Just a gentle pull and twist. Set. So there's a few roots here that come up because they're too close to the wall. I could do a lot of things, but I am just going to push them down a little bit. And when I fill it up with substrate, I'm going to hold them down. For now, I'm not worried about the nebari or what it will look like. I'm now really mainly worried about tying it into the pot. And this is funny. What you can see here, that's an old nail. Somebody once put a nail in the trunk to get it into the pot. I'm planting this in pure pumice. Pumice is a volcanic mineral and it is very porous, and olives love mineral soil and love lots of air to their roots. and it dries out fairly quickly, which is also good for olives. All very good reasons to use it now on the tree. When you're doing repotting in summer, make sure that the roots don't dry out. As you saw, the tree was soaked in water just to get the mud off, but it also helps to keep the roots moist for longer. But I need to be quickly here. Use a chopstick to work the substrate between the roots in a gentle side-to-side motion. Effectively, what you're trying to do is create a little bit of space between the roots so grains can fall down and the roots can come up, evenly spreading the substrate between the roots. Don't go and poke at it like a madman. That really will damage the roots. And with that, we're all done here, ready for some water and then in the shade for a couple of days before I move it back into the sun after this heat wave is over. Now let's take a look at the other tree. Really strange. Also in this root ball I see quite a bit of damage to the roots. Look at the bottom. There's not a lot of growth going on. On this side there is. Interestingly, this is the side that was towards the sun, so it's not directly sun damage. Strange. Good that I check, because the roots need to be healthy for a healthy bonsai. Let's get this cleaned up a little bit. When pruning, I always try to be quite exact in what I prune. I don't just prune wholesale, I try to prune individual roots and rather take out a whole cluster than just thin roots. Dead roots, of course, can be removed. Naturally, this could be the damage from frost over winter, but last winter it has not been exposed to too much frost. With any real frost, it has been in a shed. Only 2-3 degrees. I'd have to check whether we have had an early spring frost. That maybe I just didn't pay attention enough in the early spring when we had a first frost wave, that it had already started to wake up and that then the roots got damaged. That could be the cause of such damage. The other thing is drying out too much, which I doubt because it just gets watered with all my other trees. Over fertilized. But I don't think I did over fertilize. No, I don't have an explanation. Anybody who has any idea, please let me know. So I'm not going to do all that much to it. I'm just going to prune a little bit, clean away a little bit of this moss, and I'll take a brush in a bit. And then it goes back into the pot. So the moss and the algae have been mostly cleaned off, the roots have been pruned, and now the last step in the process. I'm painting the base of the trunk with a product against algae. And there is, of course, specific bonsai products for this, but I'm just using the regular stuff that you can get, I don't know, in your hardware store or in your garden center to keep the pavements clean. It is very important, though, if you get this, that you check the label. And it should say it is safe for plants around, so it really only kills the algae and stops moss from growing. There are also products that also kill weeds, and this product doesn't know whether you have a bonsai or a weed, so it will kill your bonsai as well. So if you're putting this on, read the label very carefully and maybe check it just on other plants before you do it on your bonsai. Just see whether it damages other plants. Well, this is pretty much done. Ready to go into a pot. Let's get this potted up and then we're all done here. And yes, I'm using a recycled wire here for tying trees into the pot. I don't think it's worth using new wire. I do believe in tying trees into a pot though. Very important. Front of the tree to the front. Gently squeezing it down so the substrate moves in on the bottom as well. Facilitates the tie down. facilitates the substrate getting in all the right spots.
Can I squeeze it through somewhere here? I don't think I can. That's a shame.
Interestingly, this olive stands right next to the other two, is treated in exactly the same way, and has been growing like crazy, even throwing out suckers from the root base. So I don't know what is going on. If anybody has any idea what it could be, please let me know. And with that, both trees are back in their pots, ready for the rest of summer. It's now the middle of August, and I'll just put those in the shade for a week or two before I move them back into the full sun. And as promised, later on I'll do an update on these trees and show you whether they lived or died. If you have any thoughts on this, pop a comment down below. I'd love to know what you think will happen with these trees, and whether I'll have 2 dead trees, 2 living trees, 2 growing trees next year. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.